Welcome back to another episode of Relentless TV. I'm your host, Kelly Murray. It's so great to be here with you guys, and many of you may not know this, but I have been involved in the martial arts industry now for the past 15, 20 years. And one of the things that I'm known for is how to develop a Rockstar team. Now, this is not an easy feat. Management, arguably one of the hardest jobs in the world. Why? Well, because we're managing people, and people are complicated. And so I'd like to talk today about 3 of my top tips to successfully manage people. Maybe you're doing them, maybe you're not. Maybe this is the reminder you need. Maybe you could investigate how you can up your game. But essentially, these are 3 tips that you're going to be able to implement right away. So let's get started. First and foremost, when it comes to managing people, I want you to remember that things like their emotional state, their circumstances in their life, how they're feeling in the given moment. Maybe they forgot to eat breakfast. Maybe they didn't sleep enough last night. Or maybe they're feeling really good today because they got an excellent grade in school. All of these outside factors can really impact how someone shows up to perform at their job. So my first tip for you is to have regular one-on-ones with your team. Now, you've probably heard us talk about one-on-ones in the past, and essentially it's a very easy process to follow. All you need to do is be consistent, and I'm going to give you the 4 things that you can focus on in your one-on-ones with your team to help give you a little more structure and provide you with a game plan so you don't go into these conversations feeling too nervous or not really knowing what to talk about or what to ask. So the first reason that we highlight a one-on-one with a team member is to do exactly what I just talked about, which is to kind of get a pulse for how they're feeling. Really just to check in and see, do they need anything? Do they need extra support? How are things going at home? How are things going at school? And this is just an opportunity to really build connection. So the purpose of a one-on-one that focuses on their mental health and making sure they're feeling good is really no agenda other than that. So the questions that you can ask, again, just really kind of looking at how you can get more involved in helping support them as a human being. Maybe they're going to say everything's fine, but this is you doing your part to, again, try to find a way to connect and offer support in the areas of their life where they may be struggling. The second type of one-on-one that you might set up is more geared towards their performance. So for this type of one-on-one, you might get out the KPIs, you might try to look at some of the metrics you use to help decide if they're doing their job effectively, and then you use this time to not only review, but also to give them some advice, to give them some tips or exercises to do to help improve their skills. Essentially, it's kind of like a mini training session. So these one-on-ones do not have to be long. In fact, I would recommend sticking to it 20-minute max, typically 15, 20 minutes, and more frequently than not. So instead of doing a whole hour sit-down conversation once a month, I think it's better to do a 15-minute sit-down every week, especially since most of us have smaller teams. And this really just helps us check in and keep our hand on the pulse of how our team is doing. Again, a lot can happen in even a week's time. So if we go too much longer than that, we risk that there's a lot that can happen that we don't know about. The third reason that we would do a one-on-one is to get their feedback on us and to ask questions that would help us understand how we can improve as a management team. So are you feeling supported by the management team? Is there anything we can be doing better for you? What are your struggles? What are your challenges at work? What are some things you hope to improve on over the next 30 days? How can we support that? So this is really a listening session. It's not always easy to get this kind of critical feedback about your leadership and management skills, but it's truly the only way for us to get good, valuable feedback in order for us to up-level our own selves in this process. And then the final reason that you might have a one-on-one is really for both of you to pursue some of the personal development that helps to establish a mentor-mentee relationship. So in this particular one-on-one, maybe you've learned through previous interactions and conversations that this individual is really excited about buying a house. And maybe you're not a professional real estate agent, or you don't have a lot of experience with buying a house. So maybe that's not something you can potentially give them a lot of information about. But what you can do is make the time during your 15, 20-minute check-in to do the research together, or to find the resources with them, or to watch a YouTube video, or watch a podcast, or call a friend that may be helpful, call someone in the industry that has done this before. Really what it is, it's you showing that person that you care about them beyond just the 9 to 5, beyond what they're doing for their job. So again, I'll just recap the 4 reasons you would do a one-on-one. One is really just to develop a relationship. It's to check in. It's to make sure mental health is okay. It's to make sure that person feels like they have a relationship with you and a connection with you that goes beyond what happens during the workday. What they decide to share is totally up to them. The more people trust you, the more they're going to share with you. Don't worry if people are more private than others. That's okay. The idea is you're just offering that you have the time for them, that you are paying attention to them, and that goes a long way. Again, number 2 would be for like a mini training session on specific skills that you would like to see improved on. So maybe you've noticed something throughout the week that they're just not getting, or maybe in team training they were falling behind. So this is an opportunity for you to spend that one-on-one time with them, getting them better at something. Number 3 was for feedback for you and your management and leadership skills, finding out how you can improve and what you could be doing better. And then number 4 is a personal development session where both of you or one of you is actively doing some sort of process, activity, engagement exercise to develop a personal strength, okay? So again, it could be maybe you both do a yoga class together, or maybe you guys invite, again, a financial strategist to come in and do some one-on-ones with your team so they can help set them up with investment opportunities. The sky's the limit. Maybe you listen to a podcast on leadership together. So all of those ideas can be featured in your one-on-ones. Now, how do you decide which type of one-on-one to do? Again, it kind of depends on what's going on with the employee at the time. Early on in your relationship, lots of just connection and rapport building is going to be your best bet, because the more you strengthen that trust, the more you're going to be able to have a better mentor-mentee relationship in the future. If that person, again, is struggling with something in particular, that's when you would use the training session. But otherwise, you can just rotate through them as well. Okay, so that's tip number 1, and that's really going to help with just creating an opportunity to build a real solid relationship with your team where you listen, where you understand them, and where you're really on their side. Okay, tip number 2 has to do with clear expectations. So really where this stems from is establishing what we would call an SOP manual or an SOP book of systems. SOP really just stands for Standard Operating Procedures. You might hear people call this playbook. You might hear them call it systems. Again, all of them are pretty interchangeable. But what it really is, it's a referenceable manual where every possible task that an employee is asked to do has a written recipe for how to do it successfully. Now, the reason why this is so important is because it outlines exactly what we expect from our team. When we don't have this either available at all or available and accessible to them for referencing, it creates an opportunity for people to do things incorrectly or inconsistently. So the SOP is the starting point for your clear expectations. Now, inside of your SOP manual, you want to have everything from your employee handbook, right? When someone first gets hired, you want to outline what are the expectations and what are the promises you're making as the employer. An employee handbook also is going to have a lot of state guidelines that you want to make sure you research and include. Every state is different, and all employees are protected under labor laws. So it's really important that you understand what those labor laws say and that it's communicated to your team as an expectation early on. You also want to have an internal policies manual, which is a little different than an employee handbook. This is going to include all of your rules and your expectations for how people behave in your community. So think of your employee handbook as the government guidelines. Think of the internal policies manual as your own community's guidelines. And this is going to have things like uniform or dress code requirements. When do people get to eat on their shift? Where should they eat? What does being on time look like? What should they do if they're late? Who should they call? Is texting allowed? Can they use their phones on the shift? What's the holiday schedule like, etc. So these are sort of the logistics of how to be a great employee. You also want to have a section for each area of your business. So you'd likely have a marketing and acquisition section, and it's going to have systems that are written down and easy to follow for every operational task underneath the marketing umbrella. You'll do the same for on the mat and training as an instructor or a coach. They should have their own section. You should have one for sales. You should have one for retention. You should have one for events. So you can kind of break it down by categories of your business, and then don't overthink it. Honestly, a bullet list is sufficient as a first step. So if you're thinking, I have none of this and I'm freaking out, just start, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's right. Just start by making one SOP every day by writing down the steps of the tasks that you're doing, okay? And it doesn't, again, have to be paragraphs. It doesn't have to be long. In fact, SOPs shouldn't be long and confusing because then your team's not going to use them. They're not going to want to sit there and scroll through 100 pages. So make sure that they're pretty straightforward to the point. You can always add to them. You can edit and evolve them as you go. And I recommend having a physical copy of your SOPs available for everybody. Just create a big binder at the front of the desk or front of your lobby where everybody can go to research or to look things up and to make sure we're doing things correctly. You can also create a digital copy of these. You can obviously give people access as they sign an employment agreement with you. I wouldn't worry too much about that getting leaked, or I wouldn't worry about them taking it with them when they leave. That comes up a lot. It's really hard to follow SOPs even when they are working for you. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to take those SOPs home and try to start their own business. And even if they did, it's not as easy as it looks, is it? No, it's not. Okay, so that's my second tip, is making sure your expectations are clear. And that is a really important one for managing people, because then it's always easier to refer to the system than it is to the people. So if someone does something wrong or makes a mistake, you can just say, hey, let's review the system together. And it creates an opportunity for them to learn and to grow. And it removes any of that negative tension between having to correct people on the job. Okay, finally, my last tip, besides interacting one-on-one with every team member every week, every 2 weeks, maybe every month if you have a very large team, is the clear expectations, SOPs, getting all your systems in place. Is the last one is ongoing training, okay? Ongoing training is what keeps people coming back year after year to their place of employment. I think for a lot of team members, they're looking for more than just punching in and punching out. They want to feel like they're progressing. They want to feel like they're getting better at things. Again, this can be the specifics of their job day to day. It can also be just getting better as a human being and growing their skills in a lot of varieties of ways. What we tend to do is we put a lot of effort into our new employees early on. We spend time training them, we onboard them, and then as they become more sufficient, more independent, we sort of relax on our training a little bit. My suggestion is don't ease up on the training. Keep pouring into your team. So when you think about your team training curriculum for the year, really think about the objectives that you want to hit. What are the things you want your team to evolve with and grow with over the next 12 months? Most of us go on autopilot and we meet with our team, but we review our KPIs and we talk about the announcements or the events. Maybe we do a team building exercise or two, and that's it. But what I want you to think about is how you're going to progress your team, just like you do with your students on the mat, over the next 12 months. So we'll start with each person on the team. They're here. How do I get them to the next level? And how do I ensure that over the next 12 months, I'm making time to pour into them in that way? Again, some ideas for ongoing training is expanding your network of experts. You don't have to do everything yourself. Have other people come in and guest teach. Have your team be exposed to people in the community who have powerful messages or powerful strategies and infrastructures for their business. In fact, people love to learn from others outside of what they're doing every day. So this is a tip that I want you to really think about for not only the next 6 months of this year, but also just every year, taking a moment to figure out what does that next step look like for each team member. That way, every team member is getting an opportunity to advance to their next level. Okay, those are my 3 top tips for successfully managing people. I want to remind you before we wrap up today that you have access to one of the most comprehensive martial arts systems libraries in the entire world, and that is the martial arts systems that Adam Kiefer, our CEO, created. I mean, when you think about SOPs and you start to get overwhelmed, just remember, all you have to do is sign into Relentless University, and we've got about 100 to 150 SOPs already done for you. So we've done a lot of the work and then you don't have to. All you have to do is simply tweak it to fit your program and your needs. And then your team can actually participate in the training online through the Relentless University platform, which means you don't actually have to take them through those trainings yourself. So please utilize this amazing feature. It's usually $497 a month for people who are not Relentless clients to enjoy this particular program, but you guys are getting it absolutely free. So if you haven't already, check it out. This is going to be a game changer. If you want, you can print out all of those systems. You can create a binder and keep it available for your team, but utilize this. This is for you. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm Kelly at relentlessmediaagency.com. Don't forget about the Relentless Summit. We've got tickets on sale now. It's going to be the most amazing event of the year, if not the decade. We're really excited here at Relentless about all the phenomenal speakers that we're bringing to you. And as always, it's just going to be a really great time. So we hope to see you there. Don't forget, as a Relentless client, you do get 2 free general admission tickets. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. Chandler, Arizona. It's a beautiful place to come visit. Hope to see you there. Have a great week.